Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, folks, this Sarah Boone case, as we all know, Friday started the trial. Put a little thumbnail up on the screen. And it's been known to, it's called, obviously, the Suitcase murder because, as we all know, Sarah Boone somehow playing hide and seek with her boyfriend, George Torres or Jorge Torres, somehow got him inside that suitcase. Maybe he went in voluntarily. Maybe she helped him get into the suitcase. But he's a man of 5'1" tall, 105 pounds. Not too easy, not so hard to manipulate, I should say. A person that small, that's also intoxicated. But what was the point of that, And we're going to hear a lot of things from the trial about intoxication. We're going to hear things about that their life was centered around alcohol and centered around drinking. But does that really give any excuses to Sarah Boone? And we'll find out. We got attorney Mike Geary on tonight, and we'll run that by him also, although I could answer that too. I don't think you have to be an attorney to answer that, but he can answer it much smoother and much more detailed than I can. But, disturbing things about this case, and it's almost, if it wasn't so tragic, it would almost be amusing. But it's not amusing because someone lost their life. And the sad circumstances behind it are just almost hard to believe. And when you realize also that Sarah Boone has been in jail for 4 years, over 4 years, almost 5 years, awaiting this case to go to trial. And she's gone through 8 previous attorneys. This is her 9th attorney that is representing her now. Clearly, there's an issue there. When they say she's got issues, I would say yes. She has some issues because no one goes through 9 attorneys awaiting to go to trial, and the trial gets put off for nearly 5 years because she's going through attorneys like most people are changing their clothes, And it's just hard to believe. And then another really difficult thing, and I don't want to burn all of our material in my monologue, the fact that she was offered to plea to manslaughter. And we'll get into that more because we want to talk about that. Offered a plea to manslaughter where she would potentially only have to do 4 more years in a prison. She's already done 4, almost 5 years. But if she goes through with this, and which she's going through with this trial, and gets convicted, she could get 25 years to life. I'm no mathematician, but I know the difference between 9 years and 25 to life, It's more than double. And as I said, I'm no mathematician, but you don't have to be to figure that out. So, folks, hold on to your seats, hold on to your hats, hold on to your thoughts, hold on to your opinions. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
Folks, before we move on, we'd like to go to a word from our sponsor. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, matchup breakdown, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, Major League Baseball playoffs, National Hockey League, National Basketball Association to political props. When the game's over, Head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet online. The game starts here. So welcoming my most trusted co-host and a man of quite a bit of reason, retired NYPD Sergeant, professor at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut, attorney. Welcome to the show, Professor Mike Geary. Mike, welcome.
Good afternoon, Bill. Good to see you. Welcome.
You know, Mike, I touched on some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And one of the things that I found not amusing, but someone said in the chat before the show, they said, oh, I heard very little talk about her being intoxicated and them being intoxicated. That was covered a great deal.
Right.
And I tried to explain to this person that intoxication is not a defense to an offense. You want to explain that, Mike?
Yeah, Bill. In Florida, like all the other states, the defense, there are certain defenses that are called affirmative defenses. Voluntary intoxication is not a defense. So if you voluntarily drank wine, you purchased wine, you took a beer, you drank it, and you drank it to excess, and you lost perhaps the ability to really think about what you were doing, that's on you 100% completely. The only way you can get away with a defense of intoxication in America to a criminal charge if it's involuntary. Somebody spiked your drink. You thought you were drinking Coca-Cola and they put something in it and some sort of chemical and you were disoriented, that sort of thing. Other than that, she doesn't really stand a chance in terms of claiming that the alcohol somehow relieves her of a criminal responsibility. No, she voluntarily imbibed all evening long. Maybe she can't remember how much she had to drink. That doesn't matter. So long as you were there at the bar or you were consuming it voluntarily at a party or some other occasion, you must suffer the consequences of your action. It does not negate or lower any sort of standard of guilt in any way, shape, or form. She is as culpable with being intoxicated as if she was stone cold sober. No difference whatsoever.
You know, Mike, if that were the case, if intoxication were a defense to an offense, then every drunk driver would claim that, you know, oh, I was drunk. Really? That's the whole point. That's against the law to be drunk and drive a car as you took out a family of four, you know, not funny, not a defense to an offense, you know. So, you know, when I use the term defense, of course, that is your attorneys raising an affirmative defense to protect you from the charges, to defend you from the charges. An offense is simply just a felony or a misdemeanor. I'm using like criminal justice lingo, and I'm not sure that everyone completely understood it. So yeah, just to clear that up. The other thing is that it seemed like the lifestyle of Sarah Boone and her boyfriend, George or Jorge, I like Jorge Torres, was they were drunk all the time. They were drinking. They were alcoholics. Let's put it right to the point. Let's get right to the point. They were both alcoholics. And people that are alcoholics, they do stupid things, you know. If that's their life, they're living that lifestyle, you know. And look, we all know, we all may even have alcoholics in our family. And it's, you know, it's called a disease, you know. It's a self-inflicted disease, but yes, it's a disease, right? But people that, you know, that are alcoholics that can't handle drinking alcohol or whatever their, so you can even say drug of choice is, they are addicted, you know, and the only way they can get unaddicted is to stop and never touch another drink in their whole life, because they say, experts say, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. So you could basically stop drinking for 25 or 30 years, and the minute you have one more drink, you're right back to where you left off 25 years ago when you got sober.
Yeah, Billy, it is a debilitating disease like narcotics use. It is debilitating. It affects every aspect of your life. People lose their jobs, they lose their friends, they have family members that won't speak to them. They've wrecked their lives over alcohol or narcotics, and they pay the price, a heavy price. And to recover from that, if you go to like an NA meeting or an AA meeting, they will tell you there's, you are an alcoholic for life. How many days sober? 200 days, 3,000 days, whatever it happens to be, but you're always an alcoholic, and they always want you to be on guard, because there's no such thing for an alcoholic to say, I'll just have 3 or 4 drinks tonight and I'll cut it off early. I'll be home in bed by midnight. No, you can't do that. So she may, and Jorge himself may be suffering from alcoholism, but many people have this. It runs through families, generation to generation, but they are still both responsible for the misery that they bring upon themselves and others. And I feel sorry for them in a way, but this is something that they needed to deal with in a much more constructive way. First of all, I guess the proper thing is you have to recognize that there's a problem before you, and actually address it before you can even recover from it. And perhaps they never did, or they tried ineffectively. But this is where we're at. Jorge is dead, and she's standing trial for his murder. And it looks like she may be spending a significant amount of her life behind bars.
Absolutely. Karen Cole, my buddy, Legal Minded Friends. Why didn't they take Sarah's blood alcohol test when law enforcement went on the scene? Good question. Would have been a good thing to have, a good evidentiary thing to have in court, to say her blood alcohol level was 0.18 or 0.018. You can't be 18, you'd be dead, but 0.018 or 0.015, a 0.08 is considered impaired in most jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions, that's what it is in New York State, think that that's too high, that should be lowered to like 0.05 or something like that, because obviously drunk drivers kill people on the roads. And, I don't mean at all at any way to make light of alcoholism. I have a great deal of it in my family, and to let the cat out of the bag, it's a huge problem in my ethnic background, which is Irish. And we as a nationality, we as a group have a big problem with alcohol. My profession, cop, police officer, huge problem with alcohol.
True.
As a profession, probably cops are one of the top professions for alcoholics. Then you go to other professions. Doctors, believe it or not, big time alcoholics among MDs, attorneys, yes, big time. Wall Street, financial guys, big time problem with alcoholics and other drugs, because they have the money to do that. So I am in no way making light of this, just putting it out there that it cannot be used at all as an excuse for anything related to this. Folks, I just want to say hello to so many new people I'm seeing in the chat. We're thrilled to have all you new people, all folks from all over the world. It's so great to have it. Elaine McKenzie, she certainly did not sound exhausted or distressed whilst counting down with the 911 caller. Yeah, I mean, we're going to go over a lot of this stuff. Helene Schmidt from Denmark. Good evening from Denmark. Good to see you from Denmark. Nita Shendra, it's 0.08 here in California. Nita's also in New York State. Also, it's the same. It's 0.08. Elaine McKenzie, she was probably smoking a ciggy whilst pretending to administer CPR on Jorge. Yeah, it could be. I don't even know. They could even ask well, how did you administer CPR? Because there is a technique to it. You don't just do it without understanding how to do it. Amy 55 from the chat, but add the narcissism into the mix and it's a different ball game. Sherry Murray from the chat, I didn't realize, Sarge, that a lot of alcoholics have problems with drinking wine the most. So crazy. Well, alcoholics, Sherry, have problem drinking alcohol, period. It's not the drink they choose, it's the alcohol, because make that a Dr. Pepper and you can drink 40 of them and you'll have no problem, except you'll have overrun with sugar. This is part of the opening statement yesterday. I'm going to play some of this. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm amazed sometimes that people can watch the whole trial on YouTube as the host comments on some of the things. It's interesting, but it's a long, yesterday I think this was on for 6 or 8 hours, the trial. And not all of the trial is that interesting. Some of it's like watching paint dry. Let me put this up on the screen.
Around alcohol. Both of them suffered from, used to be called alcoholism, now it's called alcohol abuse syndrome. And so day to day, they struggle with the use of alcohol. You can imagine that. It affected their jobs. It affected keeping employment. It affected even getting a job. As codependent as you can be towards each other. And you're going to learn with all that was domestic violence. And that George Torres physically abused Sarah Boone. And she suffered from the effects, the psychological effects that one suffers from repeat violence from an intimate partner. They were together over 3 years, and there were several prior incidences of violence.
Just to comment on this. So this is the defense, right? In a nutshell, the defense is a battered woman syndrome. But let's also realize that Sarah Boone could be the batterer. She could be the one that's inflicting the abuse. As we said earlier on, Jorge Torres, or George Torres, as many have been calling him, is 5'1", 105 pounds. And I'm not saying he can't be an abusive, alcoholic batterer at that size, but it's not that impressive, his size. And I'm sure Sarah Boone is bigger than him. So just to go at this case with that defense, if I'm on the jury, I'm going to have a little bit of a hard time with it. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, Bill, we talked about this many times. We think it's really a mistake, but this is what she wants to go with. And sadly, it's not going to be backed up by her official police interview that the jurors are going to see. Now, in that evening when she took the video, and we've discussed this, if she took the video and I'll say, assuming for argument's sake that everything the defense attorney said is absolutely correct, assuming for argument's sake that he actually had been an abuser in the past, and again, assuming that she never did anything back to him, if he was in that suitcase and he was threatening her like, Sarah, let me out or I'll kick your ass, or Sarah, when I get out of here, I'm going to beat the crap out of you, honey, let me out or I'll beat the daylights out of you, then maybe I think that idea of a battered woman syndrome, self-defense could come into play. But when they see that video, she's the aggressor and he's actually begging for help, telling her that he can't breathe. I think this is a big mistake. You think this is a big mistake. Everybody thinks this is a big mistake going with this defense, because if you have a defense that you're going to announce during opening statements, there are going to be jurors who are going to be waiting to hear evidence, strong evidence that will exculpate her, that will relieve her from criminal responsibility. So they're putting a burden on their own shoulders that they have to bear later on in trial. I don't think they could do it. I don't think it's a good defense whatsoever.
Mike, as I said earlier on in my monologue, is that she was offered a plea to manslaughter first degree,
right?
Which all the legal analysts, all the legal experts said she could be out in 4 more years. So that would mean that she would have been incarcerated for between 8 and 9 years. If she gets convicted in this case, which I seriously think that that's what's going to happen. The evidence is somewhat overwhelming. If she gets convicted of murder too, she can do 25 to life. So was it worth the rolling of the dice? Is it just that she's a narcissist and wants her day in court, wants this to be all about her and have her day in the spotlight? Is that what this is about, Mike?
Billy, it could be. It could be that as simple as that. Like that there's nothing more logical and thoughtful about it than the fact that she's folding her arms across her chest saying, no, she's drawing her line in the sand. She's stamping her foot. No, absolutely not. I am not guilty. No, 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 absolutely not whatsoever. I was afraid of him or whatever it happens to be. No, I don't think that she even really thought about it. I think this is all an emotional response to being blamed. And she does not want in any way, shape or form want to admit that she has done something wrong that resulted in his death. Even with the realization that she's done 4 years in jail, she'll probably do, like you say, 4 or 5 more years in prison, and she'd be out. She'd be out by the time she's, I think, 40 or something like that, 40 or 41. And here she's staring at maybe getting out when she's 70 or not. It's inexplicable other than what you say. It's got to be something going on. This is not a logical, intelligent response to a plea offer. If I was the district attorney and she didn't take the plea offer, or I'm the defense attorney and she didn't take that plea offer, you could knock me over with a feather because I'd be like, oh my goodness, how could you not do this? Really strange. And I think you're right. Absolutely right. It's inside her 2 ears.
You know, Mike, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when her attorneys
Right.
were trying to convince her to take the plea. Were they doing like math 101, explaining the numbers to her?
Right.
Listen, you've already done close to 5 years. All right. Do another 4. That's 9. You're probably going to get out. But if you get convicted of murder in the second degree, intentional murder, you can do 25 to life. And I could just see her saying, I want to go to trial. I want to go to trial. And they were probably pulling their hair out.
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't get through to her. In no way, shape, or form would she go for the logic that they were trying to impart upon her. And she just was, again, I think it's about her. She's a narcissist and she wants her day in court. She wants the spotlight on her. Maybe she's never had the spotlight, positive or negative spotlight on her in her whole life. And this is what she wants.
Yeah. And she feels that even though she may not have really intended for him to die, that she just wanted to scare the living bejesus out of him, and she mistakenly passed out. The fact is, she probably feels that, hey, I really didn't do much wrong. I really didn't do much wrong, really. I mean, after all, Jorge, he slapped me around a few times, and I was getting back at him. I'm sorry he died, but it's like I didn't intend for him to die, so therefore I'm not guilty of murder. I'm not
But
guilty
Mike,
of manslaughter.
isn't there also a depraved mind type of charge within murder too? That if you don't understand that your actions can cause someone's death, then that's on you too. It's not, of course, the number one way is intend death, cause
Sure.
death.
Exactly.
He's going to say that she never intended death. But how about the whole that she, recklessly or criminal negligence, she put this guy in a suitcase.
Right.
What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, no, you're right. The first time I saw this, I'm thinking manslaughter. Second time I saw that video, I'm listening a lot more. I'm watching it. I'm listening to the voices, the intonation in Jorge's voice. And then I really began thinking, yeah, this is murder second degree. This is not manslaughter. This isn't reckless. This is intentionally trying to prove a point to this guy, to make him pay for what he has done to her in the past. And as you say, there's that conscious disregard of his condition that she knows that is happening. It's like she's disregarding this known danger. It's right there in front of her. He's all curled up in the suitcase. He's pleading. He can't breathe. He can't catch his breath. And she's saying, that's on you. That is really depraved to watch that person, slowly dying, before your eyes when you know he's dying. And the alcohol, sorry, that does not relieve you. I agree 100%. Does not relieve you. That's murder.
Sandy Grog from the chat. Sarah actually admitted that she caused George's death in one of her interviews, but I don't think this is going to be coming in. No, I don't think it will either. They don't need it, to tell you the truth. But right, that would be something that the judge would throw out. Nina Chandra. And like she said, his parents never really liked me. They called me the White Dragon. Yeah, well, that doesn't have anything to do with what she's being charged with. Robina White, I believe Jorge was dead when she called Brian late that night, probably already pulled out of the suitcase dead. Yeah, this is pretty disturbing, right?
Yeah.
She videotaped everything. She went to bed. Yeah, that's hard to believe also. You're under 100% right. Karine Edith, torture and murder. Yeah, I think that could be considered. Yeah, this was like a torture. You're right. Cova 42, for context of what she thinks abuse is, when Brian stopped paying alimony when she was in jail, she called that abusive. Yeah, she's got sort of an alcoholic's personality. And let me go back to the opening statement now.
We've got the photographs. There were incidences where police were called who took photographs. So you're going to be able to see the evidence. And we believe the court will instruct you at the end when you're considering self-defense, which we call justifiable use of non-deadly force or justifiable use of deadly force, that you can consider the prior acts, the history of violence, the prior difficulties that the parties had. In considering her set of circumstances that she was faced with in making the decision to use reasonable force under the circumstances. And the most important thing I can tell you here today is keep an open mind. There's two sides to every story. You're going to hear the state's side, them attempting to paint her a certain way, as they've done here today in opening statement. And then you're going to hear another side. And you're going to have to weigh that, all the evidence, the credibility of the witnesses, the photographs, the videotapes, and come to a conclusion. Now let's talk about this day, February 23rd of 2020, the date of this event. This case has been pending for some time. Here we are, October of 2024. I think the evidence is going to show that they had purchased some wine the day before.
You know, folks, for those that are listening to this and not seeing the thumbnail up on the screen, it has a picture of Sarah Boone and says her story. She told investigators they were drinking and playing hide and seek. Called police hours after Torres's passing. So they were playing hide and seek, and somehow this 5'1", 105-pound man got into a suitcase that was 28 inches in length, 20 inches wide, and 9 inches deep. And that is sort of the cocoon that he died inside of. That was his coffin, so to speak, because how he fit in there is, I just gave you the dimensions, and I think they're somewhat accurate. We'll see the witness later, the police witness that says exactly the dimensions, and I believe it was 28 by 20 by 9 inches deep. And then the horror part of that is that who zipped it shut? And then once it was zipped shut, who was the person that would not open it to save that other person's life? And that happens to be Sarah Boone.
But they hadn't finished all of that. So it was in the refrigerator. Many times that's how they start their day. At some point, you're going to see a video from Publix, from where they live. I believe it's Winter Park. But Publix was not too far from their apartment complex. And they took their car, they drove over there. So you're going to see a videotape from Publix of them both going in the store about noon. And they come out with one of those larger bottles of the wine. And then, of course, there's a receipt. And the bottles are in the garbage can. Of course, there obviously is an attraction between the two. And as everybody knows, couples can have great times where things click, everybody gets along, and then we can have episodes of disagreement. And how are those resolved? Really, is what this is about. How are disagreements resolved? But George was very jealous of Sarah. And you're going to hear the testimony about that. And that he cannot, in certain situations, he can be very charming. But when his level of intoxication gets to a certain level, is when he gets sad, moody, and a lot of times eventually it involved forcible sex with Sarah Boone or actual physical violence against her. They bought the wine. It's a simple life. They don't have much money, but they both like art. They did that for a while. They both like puzzles. They did that for a while. Well, about 5 or so, the wine bottle was gone. And George had said, I want to go get some cigarettes. So there's a convenience store right close by their apartment complex. And Sarah thought he was just going to walk over there and get cigarettes and come back. But no, what he did was he got her keys, he got her debit card, and he went over to the Publix and he got another bottle. And I think that was about 5:30, something like that. And again, there'll be the Publix video showing him going in, going out, and there'll be a receipt for the purchase of that bottle, and then there'll be that bottle will be in the garbage can along with the other bottle. Well, when he comes in with the second bottle, Sarah knows this is not good. She knows this means he's going to get to another level of intoxication.
You know something? I just got to stop it here for a second. I doubt that Jorge or George drank that second bottle himself. I'm sure that they both consumed it together. So that's where the attorney's not mentioning that, of course. The other thing that he left out, of course, he's claiming self-defense. Now, if someone is locked in a suitcase, there's usually a time frame to self-defense. For example, if you get in a fight with somebody, say, and they pull a knife, and you run away and go get your gun and shoot them, the district attorney may charge you with murder because you had an obligation to flee. Civilians can flee. Cops are not allowed. They're not supposed to flee, obviously. And she could have done that. She could have let him out and ran out if the self-defense thing is really of defense. Otherwise, the time frame has everything to do with claiming self-defense, Mike. And you're an attorney. You tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong.
No, Billy, you're right. The self-defense is a limited defense allowable when the victim is claiming that they're being assaulted. So if somebody's coming at you with a knife and you have a baseball bat and you hit them with the baseball bat as they're trying to stab you, that's self-defense. or vice versa. Somebody has a baseball bat and they're trying to come at you. Police officers use self-defense. It's just what's called justification for use of force when someone they believe is reasonably believe is trying to use force against them or use deadly physical force against them. In this case, they will not be able to show that there was this actual present threat to that person to allow them to use force against the aggressor. Jorge is not the aggressor. He's locked in a suitcase and he's crying for help and he's saying he can't breathe. Like before, I said if he had threatened her from within and said, if I get out of this, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to smack you around. I could see her leaving him there until he fell asleep and then something like that. But other than that, that's some sort of weird extenuating circumstance. I don't see how there's any way she could show some sort of need to defend herself from him when he's locked in the suitcase. I don't see it. I think it's a huge mistake. Self-defense is a very limited defense. It's when you are actually presently being threatened with bodily harm or death under the law, not this sort of strange, ridiculous, fact pattern that now she's trying to use this to try to fit a self-defense under Florida law. I don't see it whatsoever.
And Mike, if the self-defense had any merit to it at all, another thing she could have done, well, she could have called 911. I'm afraid to let him out of that suitcase because he may kill me. She didn't do that till he was dead, till 12 hours later. So this is why I find this defense to be almost laughable, to tell you the truth. And I'm not laughing at the attorney. This is what he has. This is all he has to go with because she was offered a manslaughter plea and she turned it down. So lunacy, in my opinion, lunacy that she turned down that manslaughter. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed, you see that red button right on the screen, just click on it and you'll be part of our YouTube Police Off the Cuff family. And if you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels. We also have a YouTube channel membership with count them 5 different levels. And we appreciate all our friends, our family, and all the people that support the Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories podcast. To me, the next video you're going to see, a little snippet of it. I'm going out of order a little bit, but I think this in a nutshell is the entire case. And when you see this, you just can't unsee it, as they say. That's now not my favorite expression now. You can't unsee things. And it's so powerful that when you look at it, you say, well, why did she even take this to trial? For those listening, it's a suitcase with Jorge inside it. And he starts to yell, please help me get out of it. I can't breathe. And you'll start to hear
for everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
Now, did she, was that me, or did she just laugh after she said F you to him? Mike,
laughed.
did she just laughed, right?
Oh, she laughed. Yeah. She's like, she thinks this is funny.
Let's just play that back a little bit, because now, when you think of the defense now is that she's so terrified, and this was self-defense. Let's listen to that again.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah. I can't fucking breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
Sarah. Sarah.
He's begging for his life.
Sarah.
Sarah, I can't
He's
breathe.
laughing again.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
Sarah.
Real or ransom. Might want to get video for it extra. Because I got this.
Sarah.
Real or ransom.
Sarah.
Depraved indifference or intentional?
That's
I
right.
can't breathe, babe.
Oh. That's what I feel like when you chewing on me.
Sarah. I
Fuck
can't
you.
fucking breathe, Sarah.
Yeah. You should probably shut the fuck up.
Sarah.
Shh.
How many jurors can watch that and can say, nah, this wasn't intentional. This is a self-defense murder. This is not intentional. I'm going to take a little poll of the audience. If you think that this is an intentional murder, put a 1 in the chat. That means intend death, cause death. If you think that this is a reckless murder, just that she was drunk and she didn't perceive the danger, that could even be criminally negligent homicide, right, Mike? You don't perceive
possibly.
the danger that this person could die from the situation you've put them in. If you believe that, put a 2 in the chat, because I'm just curious to see if you guys were jurors, how would you feel? And all I'm seeing right now is 1s. That this is one. We got a 2 so far from Heather, whatever.
Yeah.
A Wayne,
It's
another
depraved.
2. Pecan Brown, a 2. Rachel, 2. So we're getting a couple of 2s now, but right out of the box, there was most of you guys. Now I'm seeing a bunch of 2s. But it's disturbing to watch that, you could allow another human being that you're intimate with, that I don't know if you can use the word love between these two. I don't know if that was in a picture, but they were definitely drinking buddies. That's for sure. And again, as we said earlier on in this broadcast, intoxication is not a defense to an offense, right? The offense here being murder, second degree. It's not a defense. I was drunk. I didn't realize what I was doing. Not a defense at all.
He told her that he couldn't breathe. If he was just sitting there saying, "Sarah, I love you. Just come on, honey, please. Just let me out. I'm sorry, whatever." That's one thing. He said, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe," and she kept saying, "F you." She was put on notice that he couldn't breathe. That is the depraved indifference. She actually was put on notice that he was not able to breathe. So therefore, it's at that point, okay, it could have been a little recklessness earlier, but the moment he says, "Honey, I can't breathe. I can't breathe," and she's saying "F you," to me, that goes from reckless to murder. That goes from manslaughter to murder right there at that moment, because she could have said, "Oh my God, I didn't think, I was just joking around," and then let him out. Once he tells her, she is now on notice that he is dying and she will not help him.
Yeah, I mean, it's really disturbing that that this is what occurred in this case. That she had, and just think of the gem, the nugget of gold this is to the prosecution. That the person being charged used her phone and narrated this horrific incident, videotaped it, and used her phone to comment on what was going on. That's almost like, having the videotape to a murder. But it was having a videotape to the murder. He didn't die right there, but based on her actions, she caused his death. How much clearer could you get than that? And again, this is going to be presented in court, of course, that this is the slam dunk. Because I saw Karen Cole, Legal Minded Friends. I always wait until the evidence is presented in court. Well, Karen, we've seen this video, for a while now. It's been on social media. It's been all over the place. And when that is shown to the jurors, I can't imagine any juror on this earth saying, "Oh, this is a battered woman syndrome." I just can't see it. I mean, it's a horrific piece of evidence that just points at guilt to Sarah Boone. It points at guilt in every way. And the defense, battered woman syndrome, self-defense, it's just doesn't pass the smell test, Mike.
Yeah, I think the only way she can get lucky, Sarah Boone, is if there's some sort of compromise that maybe there's one or two jurors out of, I think there's 6 on this jury. Maybe 1, maybe 2 are kind of like feeling a little sorry for her in some way and actually believe that she was so drunk that, maybe she just really could not comprehend how bad the situation was and might go for a manslaughter. That's about the only thing I think that can save her. But if I'm the prosecutor, I'm showing that video and I'm holding up the suitcase right there in front of them to say, there was a human being in this suitcase, and there it is on the video. And I've played for him as many times as I can. She won't be exonerated. She will not be exonerated. Maybe if she is lucky, and for her, it would be like winning a lottery ticket if she got convicted of manslaughter. But that is still going to hurt her too, because she's already turned down a plea bargain of like 4 years. She might end up getting like 15 years in prison, and all is said and done with a manslaughter conviction. She's in deep crap right now. So I don't see her this defense doing a whole hell of a lot. Maybe just putting in some people's minds a little bit of doubt, but there's no doubt as to the facts of the case and who killed this man. No doubt whatsoever.
Good is evil and evil is good. Boone will be giving what's called a narrative testimony, basically a pre-written script in an effort to avoid being caught in her lies. Now, is it a fact that she's going to get on the stand? They may have no other option than to put her on the stand, because I know she did get on in the pre-trial hearings, but whether she still testifies after all of this evidence is another thing, Mike. Usually in a murder case, it's a mistake to put the defendant on the stand 99% of the time.
Yep.
We saw that with Alec Murdoch. He thought he could outsmart everyone, and he was destroyed on the stand. And he was an attorney.
Yeah.
So all these people that think they're smart and they can outfox the system by testifying, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, the defense better have something really good, or else she's going to have to get up on that stand and make her case. And he'll give her softball questions, and she'll have to answer them. And the moment that after she's done with her direct, the prosecutor is going to get up, and if I'm the prosecutor, I'm going to play that video again to the jury. I'm going to play it on my direct case, and I'm going to play it when I cross-examine her. Unless there's something really amazing that defense attorney can come up with, make it up out of thin air, I don't know. But she's painted herself into a corner. I think as bad as she's going to be, I think she kind of actually has to make her case personally on the witness stand. I don't think she's going to do well, but I think she actually has to get up on the witness stand, because if you're a juror and somebody's claiming self-defense, I want that person in person to explain to me on the witness stand why they did what they did. I want to hear it from their own lips. I don't think this is going to go well for her.
No. From the chat, spread butter. Do drunk drivers get murder one? I think in New York State, we've seen recently where drunk drivers have been sentenced to life without parole when it was so egregious that there was a case I'm thinking of on the Wantor Parkway on Long Island, where this this drunk driver was going the wrong way and hit a limousine going to a wedding
Oh,
and killed like 4 or 5 people. And no one was amused with that, to put it lightly. And that was the first time, spread butter, what you were referring to, they charged him with murder. I believe it was either second or first, but he got life without parole. And I think that was the first time in New York State history. I can't speak to the laws in all the other states. This, of course, is Florida. But in New York, they don't play anymore with drunken drivers that cause fatalities. Mike, you probably know better than me.
well, it used to be that you would hear manslaughter because being drunk, even though it doesn't negate the criminal intent, it's something for some people and even for prosecutors to say, okay, well, the person would not have done this except for their drinking, but it was reckless. They got behind the wheel knowing they were drunk and they were acting recklessly because they knew the dangers that drunk driving imposes upon the public. And so you'd see manslaughter convictions and people would get 5 to 15, 15 years, 8.5 to 15, and things like that. But over the years, as you see, these horrific cases come and everybody knows about them. And especially if you, instead of, getting into one accident and maybe one person dies, you have an accident and you hit several cars and like 3 or 4 people die. Prosecutors in New York State are going for murder because the alcohol does not, the alcohol in your blood does not negate your criminal responsibility. And so therefore they don't see it as reckless anymore like they did, say, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. They're seeing it now as murder. That's right. They're not playing anymore with a manslaughter. No, this is actual murder.
This is from the courtroom. Very interesting evidentiary piece. I want to play a little bit of this. This has a lot to do with what we're just talking about.
To collect the suitcase as well in this case.
Yes, I did.
Prior to placing the suitcase into evidence, did you process it?
I took measurements of the suitcase.
What are the measurements of the suitcase?
It was 28 inches in length, 20 inches wide, and 8 7/8 inches deep.
Your Honor, at this time, may the witness step down from the stand and approach the clerk's area?
Yes.
So this is a detective, a police officer testifying to the size of the suitcase. She processed the suitcase as evidence, and she's going to step down off the stand and remove the suitcase from a big box that they have it in now and present it in front of the court to the jury so that they can see the actual suitcase where George Torres died inside of. She's walking down off the stand right now, and the judge gave her permission. The attorney picked up the suitcase, and she's going to open it up from the box that it's inside of right now.
Ma'am, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as states A. Tell me, do you recognize this item?
Yes, I do.
Tell us, what is this item?
This is the suitcase I collected from the living room.
And how is it that you know that this was a suitcase you collected from the living room?
It has the Orange County Sheriff's Office evidence label that I labeled with the item description. It also contains my name and the agency case number, and my initials are also on the evidence tape.
Ma'am, at this time, could you open States A and look at the contents of it to yourself?
Yes.
So she's going to open the box now and take the suitcase out. For those that are listening and not watching it, she's cutting the box open with a razor, being careful not to cut the suitcase. She's opening up the box. She'll shortly be lifting the suitcase out to present it to the jury and the rest of the court. It's removing tape. For you guys that are listening, I don't want you just listening to tape sliding. She's just about opening the box, and she'll be removing the suitcase from inside the box.
What is inside of States A?
This is the suitcase I collected from the living room.
And does it appear to be in the same or substantially the same condition as the time that you collected it and placed it into evidence?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move what's been marked for identification as States A into evidence.
Any objections?
No objection.
What was pre-marked as A will be received into evidence without objection as States 11.
And Your Honor, at this time, I'd ask for permission to publish States A to the jury.
You may.
He's removing the suitcase out of the box. Now it's in full view of the court and the jury. Same color, that sort of
Can you open the
bluish
inside?
color. She's going to open it up so we can see the inside of it, see how the size of it, the interior. She's opening the zipper right now, having a little bit of a hard time with the zipper. There we go. You can hear the zipper opening right now. We just recalled him screaming out, Sarah, help me. Let me out, please. I can't breathe, right? And she's opening it. Taking her, 10, 15 seconds to get the suitcase open. Okay, she had just opened it now. We can see the interior, see the size of it as a black interior. Look, we've all seen inside the suitcases. I don't think anyone wants to be inside there, though. So that was sort of the demonstration for the court to see what this suitcase looks like, to see what Jorge Torres was inside of, George Torres, and that's
You
been,
also had
that's
an
been presented
occasion
to the court.
to-
I'm going to remove that.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful evidence. Not as powerful, of course, as the video showing him begging for his life. Sarah, let me out of here. I can't breathe. But seeing the actual suitcase in the courtroom is also very powerful for the jurors to see. It happens to be the same exact suitcase that you saw on the video, and so when you see it and then the jurors look inside and see how small it is, and then just imagining, everyone would be imagining themselves inside there, whether or not they could even realistically fit inside there or not. Just imagine even being in a confined space. I've always been a little bit claustrophobic. I could not even look. If someone ever pulled the gun on me and told me to get inside the trunk of a car, I would not do that. Shoot me. That's I'm taking the shot right there to run. But I will never, ever get inside a trunk of a car because, first of all, if you ever get inside of a trunk of a car, everything that happens after that is bad. You're not going to live. They're going to kill you anyway. So take your shot right there, right, Mike?
That's right. That's right. And just think about it. The jury is going to look at that suitcase and think, I've got one like this. That looks slightly bigger than a carry-on, but, just slightly bigger than a carry-on. And everybody's got one. You go to the airport, you just, wheel it along with you. And that's one of the ones that you check on. And that's it. And you put, stuff there for maybe if you're going to be away for like, say, 4 or 5 days. It's really small, and you're going to put your toiletries in there and your shoes and your pants and your shirt and your sweater. And that's it. It's not anything like a sleeping bag, big as a sleeping bag, nothing like that. It's much smaller than like a 2-person tent, a pup tent. No, this thing is small, and that was his coffin. That's where they found him, all curled up inside that suitcase. And they're probably soon are going to see the crime scene photographs, and it's going to be horrible. And so that is powerful evidence because it's a tactile sense that you can talk about this thing, but now you see it, you're going to see pictures, and soon they're going to hear the video. And they're going to be looking at that little suitcase back and forth, looking at the video, looking at that suitcase, and they're going to be horrified. Yeah, it's really, really powerful evidence.
Sherry Murray from the chat. What happens if you're extremely tired and knowingly get behind the wheel and cause an accident? Similar to, no, it's not. It's not the same thing. I mean, it would be smart not to do that, or perhaps if you're that tired to pull over and get a little bit of rest. But no, you're not impaired. You're not intoxicated. You're tired. Could they find? Could that rise to the definition of impaired, Mike, to being overly tired?
Yeah, I think it could possibly, depending on the circumstances, amount to like a reckless conduct. If you know you are really shot and you're just pushing it way beyond your limits. We've all done maybe those things in the past. You're traveling from one state to another, maybe a holiday weekend. You're tired and you're traveling, say 6 or 8 hours, and you're driving and you're well past your real safe zone, and you're pushing it. You should pull over. You should get some rest. If you do cause an accident, that's on you. To me, I think that would be the definition of recklessness. Not murder,
Mike,
absolutely not murder, but reckless.
I remember nights driving home after being at work for 2 or 3 days straight with no sleep.
Right.
And I was so happy to go home to get some sleep. And it was the winter time. And I was so tired. I was like, I should have probably just stayed and slept at the precinct and left the
Right.
next day. But I wanted to get home because I was sleeping I had the same clothes on, and I just wanted to get home. And it would be like 10 degrees out. And I would open the windows and turn the heater off to keep me. That was the only thing
Right.
that could keep me awake. And that cold air slapped, because once you put that heater on and it hits you in the face, it'll literally just put you right to sleep. So I would actually drive home with the windows open to keep me awake. And you'd be like freezing in your own car, but that was the only way you could drive home and stay awake. So I appreciate that, Sherry, to bring up something like that, because I've been there. And think of over-the-road truck drivers. That's their life every day. They're driving beyond that's why they have those truck stops where they get tested to see how long they've been on the road. And they can either get a summons for that or be told to get off the road because they've been driving for too long. It's not safe. Judy T from the chat. Never have I ever seen such a person as Sarah Boone. Yeah, they're rare, but they exist, they exist. Good is evil and evil is good. Don't forget the body cam footage of Boone saying, I just wanted to make him squirm for a couple of minutes. Well, she did more than that. Trust me, she did much more than that. She caused his death. I want to play some of Sarah Boone's ex-husband, who gets on the stand to testify. And don't forget, she called him when she discovered George dead in the morning, not 911.
Seated? After seated, if you could please state and spell your name for the record for us.
Brian Boone, Brian Boone.
Thank you, sir. You may inquire.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us how it is that you know the defendant?
I dated her for quite a while, and then we eventually got married.
When you say you dated her for quite a while, how long are we talking?
I met her in the late 90s, and I believe it was around 2005 when we got married.
Did you have any children as a result of your marriage with the defendant?
Yes, we had one son.
And how old is that son?
He is currently getting ready to turn 14.
Did your marriage with the defendant last?
And no, it did not.
And approximately when was it that you separated and began proceedings for divorce?
Probably 2017, I'm thinking maybe.
And at that time, when was your divorce actually finalized?
Maybe it was 2006. I think the divorce was 2017, I believe.
And after your divorce, what was your custody arrangement with your son that you had in common with the defendant?
She was supposed to have him on Mondays and Tuesdays. I would have him Wednesday, Thursdays, and then we'd alternate Friday through Sundays every other week.
So 1 week you would have 5 days with your son, and another week she would have 5 days with him.
Correct.
And was this still the same custody arrangement in February of 2020?
Yes.
And in February of 2020, do you recall the events that occurred, I guess, first on the late evening of February 23rd, 2020?
On that evening?
Yes.
Well, apparently Sarah called me at one point during the night.
Do you recall about what time she called you?
I think it was 11 something.
When you answered the phone, how did Sarah sound on the phone?
She sounded like she had been drinking, was pretty drunk.
Were you able to understand what the defendant was saying?
Somewhat, but she woke me up. I had work the next day. I was asleep when she called. She's done this before, calling me late at night, and generally I kind of just try to ignore it, so I wasn't really paying attention.
Who was she living with at the time?
George Torres?
When she called you late that evening, could you hear George in the background at all?
Not that I remember, no.
Did you pay much attention to this phone call?
No.
Now, the following morning, on February 24th, 2020, did you begin to call the defendant?
Yes, I did.
And approximately what time did you begin to call the defendant?
I think it was like 11 o'clock or something.
And why was it that you were calling her?
Well, it was going to be Monday. I had him on Sunday and dropped him off at school, and I was calling to try to find out if she was going to be actually picking him up that day.
Why would you have a question about whether or not she was picking him up?
She wasn't generally very good about actually getting him on the day she was supposed to.
So it was not uncommon for you to have to remind her to pick him up or to make sure that she was going to pick him up?
Well, I mean, remind or just find out if she was going to, or if she was just going to give him over to me as what happened.
Do you remember at what time on February 24th you actually got in touch with the defendant?
I think it was like 12:30 or something.
And when you actually got in touch with her, what did she tell you on the phone?
That George was dead, and if I would come over.
Did she say what happened to him?
I don't remember if she told me then on the phone or when I got there, but she told me they had been playing hide and seek and that she fell asleep.
What did you advise her to do?
I told her she needed to call 911 and that I would come over as soon as I could.
And this is on your first phone call here at approximately 12:30.
Yes.
On 2/24/2020.
Yes.
Did she call you again while you were en route to her residence?
She did. She called to find out if I was still going to be coming over.
And when you spoke with her while you were en route, what, if anything, did you advise her?
I told her she needed to call 911 and told her I was on my way, but she needed to get somebody over there.
How long did it take you to arrive at her residence?
From the first phone call, or?
Yes, from the first one.
Well, I mean, I don't live, I mean, I live a minute or two drive away, but I had to get my puppy. We had just gotten a puppy recently. I had to get him in his crate and stuff like that and put something on because I was working from home. And total time, maybe 10 minutes.
When you arrived at her apartment, tell us what she told you when you arrived.
George was dead, and I don't remember if she told me now or before that they had been playing hide and seek and she fell asleep. But I at that time told her again she needed to get 911 called to get somebody over there.
Had she called 911 at this point?
No, she had not.
So you've advised her now 3 times to call 911.
Yes.
Did you go inside of her apartment?
I walked in the front door into the little tiled area, like entranceway thing.
What, if anything, did you observe when you made it to that point?
Looking into the living room, I could see like the end of his feet and maybe a little bit of some legs that were kind of coming out around the backside of the kitchen area.
Did you continue to go into the apartment?
No.
Where did you go?
Sarah told me she was going to call 911 and go outside and have a cigarette and a drink and asked me to come out there with her. And I told her that I didn't really feel comfortable being inside. And I went out front and got in my car and waited for people to show up.
Did you witness the defendant call 911?
I think I was in there when she dialed it and first got somebody on the phone, but I wasn't there for the whole conversation. No, I was outside.
Did you stay there at the scene while police arrived?
Yes, I was there. I was part of it. I knew I'd have to talk to somebody, so.
Did you talk with law enforcement?
I did.
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
We want to reserve our questions for when we call him in our case.
Okay. All right, sir, you're subject.
So, the prosecution got some of their points across by talking to the ex-husband of Sarah Boone, and like the point that she frequently misses picking up their son when it's her turn because she's too drunk. I mean, right there, it's showing, obviously, she, as we already have established, that she's got an alcohol problem, that she's not reliable. So they drew this out of him without any real heavy duty questions. And I was surprised, frankly, that the defense didn't object when he said she was very drunk. I thought they would object when he said that. They didn't. They let that go through without even an objection.
Yeah, I think that, the way he said it, she sounded drunk, that he knows his wife. They know he knows his wife, and they've been married for years and they've been going out for years. And even though it's his opinion, it's his opinion based on his familiarity with her. He's not testifying as a blood alcohol technician, in a highway unit, doing 0.08 or whatever. He's just talking as a normal individual guy. Yeah, I know my wife. I know what she sounds like when she's drunk. I've known her for years. So I think the process. If I was the attorney, a defense attorney, I might have objected. But there's really it just came in and it just went right by him. And he's going to question him more closely later because he's going to do his cross-examination later. But he's going to put it off until maybe a more strategic time. But right now, he said, no, we'll do it again in the future. So he's subject to recall. I think he sounded very candid. I think he really just realized that, this is his wife. This is what it was like. This is why we're divorced. She's really not a dependable person in any sense of the word. She's called me up numerous times when she's been drunk. And this is just another one of those times. And that could cut both ways. It could show that she's just total out and out lunatic, but that really doesn't help at all. It may lower the idea of, like, say, some sort of, intent to kill. But on the other hand, it shows that at the very least, she is a mess. And at the very least, it is absolutely, at the very least, again, at the very least, in her favor, it would be manslaughter. But I think he did a good job. I don't think he helped her at all. I think the prosecution was very quick and got some facts across. And the idea that she had to be told 3 times that to call 911 and she didn't do it makes her seem like the most irresponsible person that you can even think about having. And so it doesn't really help her whatsoever. It just makes her look that much more foolish, incapable of handling a situation, and maybe, just maybe, that she didn't want to call because maybe she was actually still feeling the effects of alcohol, and maybe was still a little bit intoxicated at the time, which makes her look really bad.
Absolutely. Northwest, Jorge's blood alcohol content at autopsy was only 0.138. That's pretty damn high.
Yeah, that's.
But also realized
GWI.
that he stopped drinking 12 hours before that. So I would think that the alcohol dissipates within your system or breaks down, even though you're dead in your system. So a 0.138 is still pretty damn high. I mean, the 0.08 is, is enough for driving while intoxicated, driving while impaired. So Northwest, thank you for that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that came back, and that's a thing. But I would remind you that he was probably dead for 12 hours. So that's again, the alcohol, I would assume, dissipated in his system, and would look, when someone is getting tested for, if they're doing the test like at an alcohol testing center, although now it seems they do it right on the scene, but they won't let you drink water and they won't let you go to the bathroom until you take that test. So that affects your blood alcohol level. I want to play a little bit of this body cam as when the police respond on the morning of when Sarah Boone called them upon discovering George dead. They're going into the house right now. Here is Sarah Boone approaching them.
Who is he? Boyfriend? Yes, because for like 3.5 years. What happened? We drank last night. Can you pass this to the around to the FBI stuff? They need to sign that, sure. No. You should then have to.
Those listening, it's a little bit confusing, but they're trying to talk to her in front of her house.
What's going on? I just got here to fill me in. No problem. Like, together, we can do some artwork together. You are putting a puzzle together? Yes, we have a puzzle that we started in there. Okay. We've been doing art, trying to take stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we were drinking, we had a bottle of wine last night. So then it's like, we decided to play hide and seek, right? Okay. So he gets in the suitcase. Okay. Who's that? That's my ex-husband. My former husband. How did you live with you guys? No. I called him over here. Okay. I didn't know what to do. Okay. I didn't know what to do. Okay. So then he came over here. Here, let's talk inside. Okay? I called you guys. Mm-hmm. The problem is I fell asleep. When did you do CPR? This morning. When I found it.
There she's admitting right to a police officer, the problem is that I fell asleep, and doesn't wake up for 12 hours later. So poor Jorge is in that suitcase for 12 hours, where he met a very uncomfortable, painful death of asphyxia. And just imagine the horror of being in such a confined space for that amount of time. Route Irish, welcome, new member of the Police Off the Cuff family. Thank you, Route Irish. Welcome. Mike Geary and I happen to be of Irish descent also. Let me go back to this to see what else she says.
Before you call? No. 1 o'clock right now. I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30. So I came downstairs and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. Before that, I found him. I took him out. I tried to use and then I called him and then I called you guys. Did he be here before the fire department got here? Who? The husband or your ex-husband? Okay. Where'd you live at? Right on the street. Okay. So you were playing and who did come up there? I did, but then I fell asleep. Okay, well, you okay? I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what happened. He's so cute. Like having aneurysm or a heart attack or what? What kind of medical conditions does he have? None that I know of. None that I know of. None that I know of. No. Okay. All we had was a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine. Okay. Doing kind of artwork. And we decided to go and have him see. That's all that happened. Okay. But I don't want it there. Like, I don't know what happened. So how long were you doing CPR on him prior to you calling 911? You tried that all morning? Yes. Okay. And then I called him while I was time did you start probably giving me a rough ballpark? Here, let me fill this at the end, okay? Please, ma'am, my Dr. Pepper. I am still cutting out right now. Ma'am, and you can't talk to him until we get down to paper, okay? Just don't leave, okay, Brian? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Thank you. I know. Do me a favor. Stand over there by that car. Give me 1 second. There's a dog in there? Yeah. You want to help clear the back bedrooms real quick? Just make sure there's nobody else in here?
They're inside the apartment right now.
Girlfriend, and that's the girlfriend's ex-husband. He's going to see it. They're playing hide and go. See what she said? She's been doing CPR on him all morning before calling us. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and start making phone calls. Okay, go ahead. What do I do with this dog? Because I don't want him to mess with him. Come here. Oh, perfect. Okay. Yes. Here, come on, let's go outside. Come on.
Good boy.
The police are inside the apartment, just taking care of the dog.
Orange County.
Yes,
You know, Becky Boop. I can't believe. Let me just read your comments. Becky Boop from the chat. I can't believe how people make fun of looks and words and anything you can make a joke about while you're waiting to see the trash go out rather than a person. She's not a cold-blooded murderer. Well, I would disagree with you. She is. She did what her actions caused his death, and she did not, when she had the opportunity to save his life, did not take any action to do so. So, Becky Boop, I totally disagree with you. Mike, your thoughts about that?
She's acting strangely. Her story is strange. Nobody's picking on her based on her facial expressions or anything. It's just the overall, facts of the case where she claimed to have, she said literally 1 bottle of wine. There was at least 2 bottles of wine. They're playing hide and seek. He got into the suitcase. She fell asleep. It all sounds a little bit too pat. A total accident. I think as she's talking to the police officer at that time, that you could see the officer's hands and stuff like that. I think she probably had forgotten the fact that she actually filmed very cold-bloodedly him asking for her, pleading with her, begging with her to open up the suitcase because he couldn't breathe. He said, honey, please, Sarah. She forgot about that. She's thinking, oh, this is a total accident. She forgot what she did the night before when she was drunk. You know what? That's on her. So I wouldn't have any sympathy for this girl whatsoever. None whatsoever. She did everything in her power to hurt this guy, and she did. And she may not have remembered doing it, but she was filming it. And so that is the biggest piece of evidence, I think, that the prosecutor is going to use to get her convicted of murder. Nobody's picking on her for some small little triviality. No, she killed the guy. She killed him, and she filmed him begging for his life. No sympathy.
You know, Mike, the big thing too here is that say he got into the suitcase on his own accord.
Mm-hmm.
She closed the zipper.
Mm-hmm.
And she refused to open it to let him out.
Right.
So those are two overt acts that she did that directly caused his death. So to say that it's not intentional, that he got in there through osmosis and he stayed in there through osmosis is totally incorrect. And if you want to have sympathy for her, that's your business. But the law is not going to be sympathetic to her. The law is going to have its full weight come down on her when this verdict comes in. I will promise you that. This is some more from the body cam video on the morning that this occurred.
But I totally forgot that he was in the suitcase. He can tell you there's a lot of things that I/Rita think of. Jobs. Yeah, he did tell me. But all that good stuff. So I just totally forgot.
You introduced CPR on him.
Yes. Yes.
About
And
what
Gurgle.
time this morning did you
Gurgle.
start doing that CPR?
No, it was the afternoon. It was afternoon because
Yeah.
I was awake. But then I finally decided to come downstairs at like 12:30-ish, whatever it is. And I was like, do I think he was in the suitcase? And he wasn't moving. Nothing was happening. So I unzipped it, took him out and started doing CPR on him. He was on his way over here.
You know, that to me, yes, I left him in a suitcase for 12 hours and I was so astounded that he was dead. That's like, to me, that is so not believable. Like she's feigning, like she's, oh my God, he's dead. Well, what do you think happens when you leave someone in a suitcase without air for 12 and a half hours? They die.
Right.
And the whole CPR story is absolute bullshit. I can guarantee you that. Let me just play the rest of this.
Here, I called you when he got here.
Once he got here, you called us?
Yes.
Okay.
And air was coming out and he was gurgling, but I could just tell by looking at him.
But you had to do CPR, you were doing that on your own?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the person that was on the phone with me also, I counted with him doing it.
And he's got no medical, he doesn't take any
I
medication?
don't know. I don't know medical wise. I know he doesn't take any medications whatsoever. The only thing, like I said, I don't know if alcohol had to do with it, but we had a bottle of wine.
Okay, all right. Here.
A bottle.
Back down.
A bottle.
Can I have one more sip of water? Yes, go on. I'll do what I can to get you a cup. I don't want you to have to keep doing that.
The cups are like right there.
Sit right here, don't talk to the ex-husband right
Oh,
now.
I won't. I won't. Can I have a cigarette, please?
Ma'am, I can't take anything out of the house.
It's on the back porch.
Nope, all of it, secure, okay? I'll try my best to get you what you need, okay? Maybe one of these extra packs of packs.
She wants to go in the house and get a
Sit down and I'll
cigarette,
try
but
to
the
get
house
you
is a
okay?
crime scene right now.
Okay. I don't want you on your feet. Yes, you put him outside. He came back in? So there's no thanks then? Corporal, I can give you a rundown? She's, sitting on the curb, I told her she's down. I was getting ready to call you guys. Yeah. Want to talk over here?
Your Honor, request permission to publish State 6.
You may do so.
So this is in the courtroom. They're showing this video. They're continuing to show the video from the morning of. Let me speed ahead here. So I was surprised that they didn't lock her up that morning, that they didn't arrest her that very day. They didn't. they left, and that to me, that's pretty shocking. Like, why did they not take her into custody right then? There's the homicide detective standing there. I'm surprised. This is the same people that investigated the Madeline Soto case. The same jurisdiction. Same police, same. Well, the police on the Madeline Soto case, in my opinion, did a fantastic job. That was the Orange County Sheriff's Office and the Kissimmee Police Department. Fantastic job. Here we are. What the front is a body
You get
cam
enough
video.
water? No,
Sarah
you want
Boone
to
is
stay
sitting on
seated.
the
I
front
don't want you
of
getting lightheaded. So remember I said the detectives were gonna come out and talk to you and go from there. You know what I'm saying? They're here. They're gonna ask you a few questions and then go from there, okay? All right.
All right, sir, my name is Chelsea, my partner Scott. It's my understanding you reside here? Okay, is it just you, okay. Your former husband, okay. But you reside here with George and then your son lives with you or lives, there's 50/50?
Yeah.
Okay. So from what, has told me, she explained, last night that you guys were drinking a bottle of wine. And around midnight, you decided, you guys, okay. You guys decided to play hide and seek.
Well, we were playing hide and seek and then.
Was your son home at the time or, okay,
No, it was fine. It was fine.
okay,
Decided to play, we just did it like that, like. Sure. We were putting puzzles together, we were doing artwork. You can see the puzzle that we finished in there and then the artwork and then decided to play hide and seek, just being stupid.
okay,
So he decided to get into Suitcase, so I thought it would be funny to, and he was talking about it too, to come up in there. I go upstairs and he fell asleep. So this morning when I was down here, I actually got up out of the bed. I thought for sure he was downstairs on the laptop, really quiet. But then I came upstairs and I'm like, where is he? Like, and that's when I found it.
okay.
I don't know what happened.
Okay, and then you weren't sure about if you woke up this morning
It was afternoon. I mean, I was
or this
awake,
afternoon?
but I just didn't want to come downstairs. So
Okay.
I laid in bed for a little while, and then I eventually came downstairs, confused about where he was, and then I was like, oh my God, he's in the suitcase still. So I pulled him out, and I stretched him out, and I started to try to make CPR for him. I called you guys, so I called Brian,
Okay,
and then as soon as he got here, which is 30 seconds on the road, I called you guys.
okay,
The person on the phone had me do the concussion really, so I can come with him until you guys shut up.
See, well, Mike, one of the things that I'm seeing here is that I don't agree with. If I was on the scene here and I had my team of 6 detectives, my first thing would be get her out of here, take her right to the precinct, get her in the box, read a Miranda, get a statement from her, right there. I don't know why they're wasting their time interviewing her right on the scene. It's first of all, they haven't read her Miranda. So all of this stuff is, have they determined yet that she's a suspect, that she's culpable in the death of Jorge? Or because a lot of that stuff could be thrown out. This is played, and if it crosses the threshold, as you know, Mike, of probable cause, and they don't read Miranda, all statements after that are thrown out the door into
Right.
the garbage, right? That's a French word, garbage.
Yeah.
And that I don't understand that. And that's what I said, that if I was on the scene here, I would say to the detectives, get her out of here. Get her right into the box. And my 2 best detectives get a statement from her, right? And, one of the things that you also want to know at that point is, when did you have your last drink? Because what the defense is going to claim is that, oh, you interviewed a drunk person, right? She didn't understand what she was saying. So That's why you got to be very careful with all of this stuff. But I don't understand why they're conducting business on her front steps of her apartment. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Mike.
Yeah, Billy, it is kind of strange. I guess that's quick because we do things in the NYPD than a lot of other places, but perhaps they're responding to a call of a dead human body, and they're thinking maybe it's an accident, and so therefore they're just doing a preliminary investigation, and they're not, that she's not a suspect. But you're right, it is kind of weird. It would probably be better take her down to the station because this is the moment she says we're playing, he's in a suitcase, and maybe they weren't sure it was an accident, just playing. But you know what? You're right. Be on the safe side. Take her to the station house. This is 99% sure that this is a homicide, that he didn't just zip himself into a suitcase and die, and nobody else had anything to do with this. So you're right. Take him down to the station house, read her Miranda, have her make an official statement, and see where it goes. And then in the meantime, you're going to get the medical examiner's report back and the crime scene photos and things like that. But you're right. I think at that point, she's outside her house. The police may be able to claim if there is some sort of suppression of statement, motion by the defense to say, her statement should not be admitted to evidence because she was not given Miranda. Maybe the police could say, look, she wasn't intimidated. She's standing right out. She's sitting right outside her own door. This is only a preliminary kind of like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Kind of thing. We haven't developed any sort of probable cause. We're not even sure if this is an accident. We're not even sure what it is. It wasn't a coercive environment. That's what they could probably say. But you're right. It would be better if it was more clearly delineated. Take her to the police station so everybody knows what, side of the fence they're on, what's going on. You're right. It is kind of like a weird, in between kind of thing at this point.
Mike, I don't need that much thing to lead me to A plus B equals C. I don't need that much proof, right? I go to someone's house and there's a dead guy in a suitcase.
Right.
And you were with him. I don't even need you to talk. Come with me. I need to talk to you now.
Right.
I don't need
that would have been better.
I absolutely don't need to question her on the scene. Give me that fact pattern, those few sentences. Oh, we got a call for 911. They were playing hide and seek. They were both drunk. The boyfriend is in a suitcase. She zipped it up. He's dead. Okay. I don't even need for her to talk. Bring her in right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I don't, and I'm not going to conduct court on her front step because that can get thrown out. So bring her in. Guys, give her a cup of coffee, give her whatever. All right. Take 15, 20 minutes to go in there, decide what strategy you're going to use and get a statement from her. And something, she's not leaving either because she's getting arrested, And that's why when I watched that, I was like, what are they doing? Why are they conducting court in the front of her house?
Yeah.
Didn't make any sense. This is one of the most unusual cases I've seen. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic what occurred here. And yes, two alcoholics, right? And then the fact that do we realize this happened almost 5 years ago? And it's just going to trial now? How did that happen? We ask each other, how did that happen? And then we find out, well, Sarah Boone went through 8 lawyers till she finally got the 9th. And this case, because of the judge said he's had it, it's going to trial. Whether she uses this attorney or whether she represents herself, she's going to trial. What did they do? They offered her a plea to manslaughter. And we all know it just happened a few days ago or last week. She turned it down, which is lunacy in itself. She turned it down. And, it's the old expression, she came close to representing herself and that cliche that lawyers always say,
You have a fool for a client.
yeah,
Yeah.
anyone who
Yeah.
represents themselves has a fool for a client. I'm sure it's said in much more colorful language than that, but that's basically what it says. And she was very close to having a fool for a client, which would have been her representing herself. So, guys, I think this was pretty interesting what we saw so far, and the case continues on Monday, and it's moving along quite quickly. And we saw what the defense intends to raise as a defense, self-defense, which to me doesn't pass muster. I think they have a better chance with the battered woman syndrome, although I don't see a lot of evidence of that either. But that's where the defense is going. And I think that she's going to wish that she took that manslaughter plea in about a week or so, or however long this trial takes. She's going to wish she took the manslaughter plea. Mike, your final thoughts.
She should have taken the manslaughter plea. Even if she avoids the murder charge and she gets convicted of manslaughter, she's not going to get that plea bargain arrangement of, like, say, four or five years in prison. No, she may get sentenced to 15 years in prison for dragging the state through an entire trial and wasting precious public resources over the course of over now, as you say, it's almost 5 years. It's more than 4.5 years. It's like 4 years, 8 months. So it is ridiculous. I don't see how this is going to be a good outcome for her in any way. But we have to remember who's the real victim in this, and that's Jorge Torres. What started out as a joke ended up being his tragedy. No matter what you think of him or her, she had the ability to free him quite easily from his coffin, and she refused to do so. And shame on her for doing that. She deserves whatever justice she gets.
You know, Mike, it brings me back to my NYPD homicide days. I remember we had 3 different cases involving suitcase murders, and one was a girl probably about the size of Jorge Torres was found in a suitcase much like that on 114th Street. And in the suitcase, and someone opened it and saw the dead body. We responded to the scene and we put it together, and she was smoking crack with some guy. She was an escort, we'll put it that way. And she took his card, his debit card, and he wanted her to go out and buy some more crack. And she did, but she helped herself for a couple $100 off his card, and that's why he killed her. Another time we found a suitcase in the middle of Harlem, and we determined it was kicked out of a livery cab. And when we opened it, we knew to stop opening it right there. We knew there was human remains in there. So the medical examiner came right to the scene, and they took the suitcase. They took it down to the office of the chief medical examiner. They opened it up, and it was a Hispanic female in her, I would say, late 30s, early 40s. And she had a clue inside her jeans. It was a telephone number. And that was the clue that put it together, and we were able to solve the case. It turned out her husband had murdered her. And, oh, by the way, her head was cut off, and we never found her head. I can't remember the third one. I know we had 3 of them, but very baffling cases. So I want to thank everyone for coming by today, this Saturday. And we didn't cover this case on Friday because it seemed like every single content creator on Friday was covering this case. And I'm talking, 6, 8, 10 people. So I said, you know something, I'll pass on it on Friday, and I'll cover it on Saturday afternoon. And it's a very interesting case, sad case. But these are the kind of cases you get. Yes, Mother Goose, justice for Jorge, or George, whatever you want to say. Legal-minded friends, Karen Cole, cruel world when drugs and alcohol to excess. You know, Karen,
Yes.
that's why I take great pleasure in watching you drink milk as you watch this show, you know, in your thumbnail picture there. or is that a cappuccino? I don't know. It looks like something. It looks like milk from here, but maybe it's not. Northwest likes the weekend coverage. And again, Apollonia, is that from The Godfather? If found guilty, I hope the Torres family sue her. There are 3 of Jorge's children who face life without him, thanks to her. Apollonia, that's a beautiful name. Brat X, I know it won't bring anyone back, and I hope it happens. Still, this is just such an awful case, no matter how many times we have to laugh at Sarah at Northwest. You know, folks, there's no problem with laughing. Some of the stuff is so horrible that you need every once in a while a little comic relief to get away from the horror of things like that. And believe me, in my years in homicide, we laughed a lot, and maybe at inappropriate things sometimes, but that's how you deal with the stress of dealing with this kind of horrific thing. Anyway, Mike, I asked you your final thoughts, and you gave it, and thank you for all your legal expertise today. It was really helpful, and I think that when you give it, you're giving it from a police perspective, not just your law degree.
Right.
You got it while you're on the police department, but you're also a copper. Don't ever forget you're a copper, right?
Once it gets in your blood, it can't get out. That's it.
You know something? I never like when people that are non-cops calling cops cops. To me, it sounds disrespectful. But for you guys that don't know, cop, the term cop comes from England, and it stands for constable on patrol. So when you know what it stands for, it's not that disrespectful. But I always think that a lot of times citizen goes, yeah, the cops, they say it in a disrespectful tone.
Yeah.
So I never really liked when civilians said it, but I guess I'll have to get over that one time. Anyway, folks, I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. Thank you so much for coming by today. A lot of you new people. I hope you subscribed, and we'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and God bless everyone.
One episode